I've done tons of interviews with NA guests and EU guests, like variety of people. I enjoy variety and I like hearing the story from people from different backgrounds. This person is in a region or from a region that I have not interviewed anyone from. And I thought if you're going to interview someone in a new region, you may as well go right to the top. This conversation, obviously, as all of them, we try and focus it around Echo, but the conversation goes beyond because there's so much more to this. It's not just a game. It's a moment in VR history, blah, blah, blah. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. We know that at this point. I've done so many interviews on it, but we're going to hear it from someone from the OCE region. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to pick the captain of the best team in the region. They basically founded the main server for this region, for OCE, and they've put so much work in over the past 4, 5, 6 years to make it what it is today. This is TheRealZeroZ. Let's get into it. TheRealZero.
Hello.
Legend. Captain of EXO.
Yes. You used to be captain
Season
of
5
Leviathan.
champion. Yes.
Now, over to EXO.
Okay. How long have you been playing for?
I have been playing since basically for 5 years now. So since the
Can I
very
get you
beginning.
to come down a little bit just so that
Sorry
your
about
badge
that.
is in shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Now they see.
Yeah,
Season
I'll just
5
go.
champion.
There you go. Yes. But I've been playing since basically the beginning of Echo, and yeah, somewhat been here ever since. There was a few breakpoints every now and then, but yeah, good old OG.
That's crazy. So, how old are you, if you don't mind me saying? Asking.
21.
21.
Just turned
Okay.
21 just 2 weeks ago.
And you're from Australia?
Yep, Sydney, Australia.
Sydney. Okay. And you've always been in Sydney?
Yeah, always been here,
Okay.
born and bred.
Cool. Okay, cool. How did you get into VR? Before, like, forgetting about Echo, like VR, when did you first come across it? How did you get into it?
The first ever VR experience I ever had was, I think I was around 13, 14. What happened is that the new Samsung Galaxy, I think it was the S6, came out, and when that
Yes.
came out, they gave out free GearVRs, and
Yes.
ooh, I still remember the moments when I would like have it in my hand and go like, "What happens if I put this on? Oh, look at that! I'm sitting in this whole different world. I'm in the canoe of like a brand new country, and then all of a sudden there's elephants and." The scary movies would come on, and back then that would be so immersive. The 3DOF back then, or not even 3DOF, it was just the headset. But ooh, immersive back then, and well, look at us now.
I'm really glad you said that. I've interviewed quite a few people at this point, and no one's mentioned GearVR.
Really,
And that's how
no
I
one.
got into VR. So,
Really?
well, like around 2012, around that kind of time, the Oculus Kickstarter and stuff like that. The Gear VR was also around that time as well. And I remember
Yeah.
using it. That was my first VR experience, and which meant that my mind was blown twice. I had that experience with the Gear VR. I was like, yeah, this is incredible. It's literally my phone is doing this.
Yeah.
And then from that to the 60 off, the first time I used the CV1, first time I used the proper Rift, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's the next step. And then controllers, and then like standalone and everything. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my
What was
God.
so you said like, was it?
Give you a represent?
So there was a video, it was like a immersive video, right? The one where you just.
Yeah,
turn the corner
immersive.
around.
Well, back then you didn't have a whole lot. Like, it's just for viewing. Back then, I think the only games that I do remember was Old Space VR. That was
Yeah.
an oldie classic. I remember going in there, just wandering around, talking to a bunch of people. Albeit it was very annoying because you only could play for 30 minutes before the battery started like flashing in your face and you go like, what's going on? And then like the only way to move is like you're tapping your head repeatedly, like you're doing an emoji like this, but instead you're just like slowly going to the place while everyone else around you, they either had like a little remote to move around, so then you would just be so jealous of them, like, oh, you moving way too fast for me. I feel like an old granny.
Okay, cool. So You're 21, so when the Gear VR, you would have been young then, right? You'd have been about like 11,
Yeah,
12,
something like
maybe a bit
that,
older.
honestly.
Okay. So what was like, were you on the internet much back then, or were you like just in
Oh,
school?
no, I was always onto internet. Well, obviously, I'll be in school and whatnot, and when I come back home, I'll just hop on. Uh, I don't know. I wasn't like very into the internet space until like I was around 14, 15, where,
Mm.
I would actually join other communities and whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've always just been that guy that knows enough about the internet, especially when I was a kid.
And I mean, you've always been in Sydney. You've always lived in Sydney. So like, that's
Yeah.
your circle. That's the people you hang out with and stuff. So I guess the question doesn't really make sense. But I was going to ask, like, what is it? Is it much difference being on the internet now? The fact that you're from Australia rather than being in Europe or America. Do you think there's much of a distance, or is it pretty much like just globalization at this point?
The difference is whenever you talk to people, they go like, "Oh, are you from Australia?" You go like, "Yeah." "Oh, kangaroos, stout a knife, I don't know, other bullshit like that." But after that's done, and after all the nitty gritty of "Oh, you Australian" is done, then it's just basically the same.
Were you involved with any other communities before, like anything VR or Echo?
I used to be a pretty prominent figure back in Beatsaber.
Oh, okay, cool.
Beatsaber, I was top of OCE for,
Oh, nice.
I think it was during the first or second year of when Beat Saber came out. And yeah, I was probably in there just as much as Echo before I kind of just left. And I haven't played Beat Saber in a long time, but every now and then I kind of just check in and say, yo, what's up? Or just even like lurk around. But yeah, my first VR community would have been Beat Saber.
And Beatsaber community is massive, right? Like not like there's the modding community, but just beyond that, there's just a lot of people that play it and are heavily engaged with it, playing it all the time, right?
Yeah. I remember it first started off with the Beat Saber custom server, which now I think it's a partnered server. And then slowly it started branching out, and then there's multiple different region servers. Like there's the OC server, and then there's the UK server, and then there's like even more niche branches like the K-pop server or
Oh,
Cube community came out. There was a bunch of different just communities that were brought from that, but like I don't know how to explain it, but like they're all interconnected some way. Because even though there was a mod community back then, well, still now, but a mod community, what happens in the mod community? So, say for example, a new update came out for Quest back then. That was like a huge deal, and then it'll kind of generate waves over here, and then like even in OCE, like if something happened there, it'll kind of just leak on to the UK server, and because they're pretty close.
yeah.
And yeah, it was tight knit, spread out, but like still interconnected.
And do you find it's like so generally being on the internet, do you find yourselves like most of the time sticking to OCE servers or just like local Australia servers? Or is it quite international with these kind of
Funnily
communities?
enough, VR, it's kind of I've seen more like of the region based in VR, albeit back in Echo when I first not first joined it, but like when I first got my PND, that was think 1 year into playing. Majority of the time, it was NA players. The reason because of that is because, well, you don't have any servers in OC back then. Nothing
Yeah.
whatsoever. All you had is NA and Europe players. So you hop in, 200 ping, joke about that for a while, and that's what you had. And then, yeah, it was kind of just international for what we had. We only had like 12 OC players back then.
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes up quite quickly whenever you're talking about OCE is the fact that for ages you just didn't have local servers, right?
Yeah. Oh, the worry.
When that was fixed and you did get a local server, did you see like an increase of people, like a higher retention of OCE community?
Majority, yeah. There was a huge spike, especially during beta came out for Quest.
Yes.
That's when the OCE servers came out. and
Oh,
then it
wow.
just blew up from there.
Oh,
I
I didn't
remember
realize it was that recent.
yeah, it's been only give or take a year, maybe a year and a half. So yeah.
Cool. Well, let's go back into your timeline. So, I mean, your badge says Season 5 champion, but that wasn't the only one you won, the only season that you've won,
No.
right? So,
So it started off in season 2.
yes.
That's when OC had its own bracket. Back then we had 7 teams, and let's see if I can actually remember the names. I've said it in other interviews and other things, but like, so obviously Leviathan, and then there was the 4 Horsemen in season 2. Oh my god,
That rings a bell.
Blazing Claws, Pineapples, Breach and Clear. If I don't say the rest, I'll be mocked eternally. Well, turns out I'm going to be mocked. I can't remember all that well anymore. But back then, only 7 teams in season 2. But the thing is, season 3 happened. That's when we got doubled in size, or even more than that. I think what people don't realize is that while, yes, it's small team pool and whatnot, but remember, we had like 6 players per team. So when you go from 6 players per team into 7, and then you go 6 players to their team into like 20, that like huge increase in such a short amount of time kind of just shows like, yes, while small at the start, we were gaining traction, and over time it was like kept increasing. It was only this season where we, obviously, because on certain pause tactics, we started dwindling in numbers.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? When people find out the game is shutting in less than 6 months. Yeah, it makes sense. People start looking other ways. But so I interviewed, do you know someone called Nada, Nada?
Yeah, I
EU
remember
player.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nada did a lot of stuff with VRML, and she invested a lot of her time and effort and energy into basically getting teams for EU and just expanding that ladder. She put so much time into just matchmaking, getting players in, getting them trained up in the EU communities, and then just building teams. Another team, another team, another team, and then like getting them to turn up and play with each other, and then yeah, the region grows like that. Did you fall into that kind of role as well? Was there people behind the scenes in the OCE
Oh,
community doing that?
100%.
Yeah.
We had the OCE server, and I remember at first we were very dedicated into trying to get new players to learn the game, and we would host puns to first get the new players in, and then, we would host tournaments. The first ever OCE tournament, unofficial obviously, but like the first OCE tournament was a cash-in tournament, because we thought that like brand new game, brand new hardware, because in Australia the VR wasn't a huge thing until like Quest happened, right? All of that combined, we thought like, okay, we were all like, I think back then we were between 17 to 18, with some people a bit younger than that, but we thought like we can spend like $100 into like getting new players to have even more fun incentive. But the thing about that, the incentive was kind of just in the air. It was kind of like, oh, that's cool over there. But the actual OC tournament, people loved it. People loved having that competitive feeling. So when VRML happened, we were pushing hard and hard to get more and more and more teams to actually form together and then like to work together. And there was many different, how would I say it, like different projects we tried to do to keep bringing up our skill place as a region, you know?
And just for timescale, this is so Quest launch. The Quest launch of Echo is that kind of time, right? That's when you're
Around
putting
there,
in this
yeah.
work to expand. So did you found the OCE server, the main one?
As much as I want to say I did, sadly, Punda was the person who pressed the create server button first. He pressed the button first. We had a group chat, and it was me, Punda, Gishnish Goo, and another NA player.
Yeah.
He was a great guy. I loved him. But we were in there and go like, guys, should we make an OCE server, because this is when the first pun was going on. So while we were thinking about that, but it go like, don't worry, I already made the server. So yes, he's the original founder.
Okay.
But in terms of behind the scenes stuff, it's I've been there since the start. We've been cycling through different stuff over the year, but like I've been here. Hello.
And but I just wanted to go there to establish what was the intention with the server when you first made it. For example, like in parallel with the EU server, the intention is literally the main server is called EU Teams, and the intent it's just to get more teams. How do we get more teams in this region on the ladder? Was it the same thing, or was there just not a hub at all for OCE Echo players?
I think it was just a big hub for OCE players to come in. I can give you the what was the first ever thing that we said for OCE players. Let's see. It's all the way in important, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, like first announcement.
Well, the first message that was kind of given out to what the server was about. So welcome to the Echovr OCE community Discord. Hello, everyone. Whether you're level 50 with 4,000 games under your belt, or newcomer level 10, ready to explore the world of Echovr, the server was created with the goal to bring as many OCE Echovr players and expand the region to the fullest capacity to be the right place to join. This Discord server aims to be the main hub for OCE players in Echovr to join up, participate in events which utilize our new servers. This is when the OCE servers were actually introduced, so that's kind of one server there. Yeah, our staff team will be organizing and executing events where there'll be pickup nights, tournaments, LAN meetups. Oh, I'm so sad about that one. Mentoring programs, and etc. In order to keep our player base lively and the servers up and running, we couldn't get the servers up and running.
You touched on LANs there. Was there? Yeah. How far did you get to getting a LAN?
We were very, very close. If the servers didn't say that they're going to close this year, it was 100% happening this year. We had plans, we had organizations, we had, it was going to be in Sydney. We picked out a venue that we were looking into financing, and then all of a sudden, this announcement came up, and yeah, it was kind of hard for everyone to kind of get into it and get, you know, it was, with the staff team, it lost a lot of morale for that, which is kind of sad.
So, okay, cool. That's cool. That's cool to hear. I mean, like, oh, that part's not cool. Shutdown's not cool. But like, the drive for the community, like making that Discord hub, like that OCE community hub, and then using that as a way to grow the community, keep people engaged, and try and plan out these like larger milestones for the future. But I feel like we've leapfrogged over your journey from VR. Okay, getting into VR.
Sorry.
That's cool. No, it's because you go on. Go on.
I completely forgot that we were talking about season 2 to season 5.
Oh, I forgot as well. Well, I was going to go back even further. I was going to talk about your journey, because we leapt straight away to competitive, because that's like, I mean, Challenger Cup and everything all going off at the moment. Finals next weekend. That's kind of what's going on, like at the time of recording this.
Let's go,
but yeah, winning it.
That's right.
Yeah, nice. Okay, what's this? Okay, yeah, sure. We'll talk about it. Orange Juice. Is that a rebrand, or is this like a new collection of players from different teams?
Orange Juice? I'm pretty sure it's just Rush's new team with old players.
What was the team name before?
It was probably FreeVR, because FreeVR has been around since season 3. Right. And then like Rush came over to EXO, but because the servers were dying, he decided like, because a lot of the players that are in Orange Juice are actually like in real life friends with Rush. So because of that, he's not like, well, if the servers are dying, I kind of just want to enjoy my time with my friends and whatnot, and like, all the power to you.
Okay. Okay, cool. Cool. I thought it'd be like it'd be like an old team that's just revived. Like it's been on for a couple of seasons. They've come back to see it out and to give you a bit of a challenge as EXO.
Oh, they're definitely giving us a challenge.
Nice.
No doubt about that one, but it's honestly, if I'm being honest, I haven't looked at the ladder in a bit of time. But from what I hear from my teammates every now and then, they are still giving us a challenge. It's even though it's the last hurrah of Echo, we're still competitive with it.
Nice. Okay, cool. We keep getting distracted. Let's get there. So,
Yes.
your journey from so Gear VR, the magic. Oh, VR is amazing, awesome. But yeah, let's go back further there. So, how did you get from that to then PC VR, and then like getting into Beatsaber and things like this? What was that part? And when is this like 2017, 2016?
2016, I think it might be 2016 or 2017. I'm not 100% sure, but my Gear VR was up there. I know you can't see my room, but it was up there in the top of my cupboard for like a good year, 2 years, and then all of a sudden, it was my birthday, and then I was going like, what do I really want for my birthday? And then like all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? Completely out of the blue, I decided, why not VR? I want to get an Oculus Rift. I wasn't like back then. When you're a kid, you normally go like, "Oh, I've seen this on a YouTube video. Have my friends have this." None of that. Completely out of the blue. It was kind of just like, why not? I didn't watch any like videos beforehand. I've had my Gear VR. That was great. I was going like, "Ooh, I like VR," but then like it was just spontaneous. And then got it, shipped it over, plugged it in. And whoa! The first time you hop up and you see that little robot guy come up to you, give you a little cartridge, put it in, go like, look at those butterflies fly. And I remember just playing on it for a good 6-7 hours, just no lifing on it for a good amount of time, especially for your first time.
Yeah.
And VR sickness didn't hit me until I played, if you know what it is, Lucky Tales.
Okay. Yeah, of course I know what it is. Yeah.
Is-
It's shipped with the headset, right? You would have got it for free at that time.
I think so, yeah. I played Robo Recall, I played all the other games, all that. But then Lucky Tales, as soon as I hopped into that, first time ever playing 6-off Rift games,
Yeah.
as soon as I was on that third-person perspective and I was just wobbling around, going, nah, I can't do this. And that's when I had to take it off for a bit. But I was gearing up for the next day.
What else were you playing around that time? Or just everything? Were you just like going through the whole library, the whole store?
I'll be honest, I was going through the majority of the store. I remember, Dead and Buried.
Yes.
I'm going through my library right now. Oh,
Have you gone all the way to the
I
bottom
forgot
to
about
see
that.
like the last ones?
Yeah, I've got Dead and Buried. I've got Quill. I think that's the more for like drawing thing. Got Toy Box, Jurassic World's Blue, Old Space VR.
Yeah.
Didn't Old Space shut down too?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's shutting. If it hasn't shut down already, it's about to. A couple months.
That's sad.
Yeah. End of an era.
Better have like some good stuff coming up, if they do. I don't know. But anyway, in terms of the games, Google Earth VR, Flipside Studio. I was basically just going through all the different like things that I can try, and they're all just like completely different, but like so much potential. Best way I can put it, because like back then you didn't have a standard. You didn't have like, oh, this is what games do to get really popular and really good. That's how like Rad made Echo, because it's a completely different movement system. They're actually putting a lot of time and effort into like, we have this new technology. Let's kind of just make it a staple of a technology. We'll calculate gravity, we'll make this game, and then we'll make it directly for VR. And back then, because there was no limits, you could just do it. And then it'll be for a bunch of other games. Granted, also back then, I remember a bunch of the games that were like Unity asset flips. Like you would have the sword, a shield, and the sword would go through the wall. And then it will be called Kingdoms of the Stars or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, back then, because no one knew what they were doing, the games coming out were just completely different each time, and just dream.
Honestly, I loved it. I loved that era of VR because that's exactly what it was. No one really knew what they were doing. They were just figuring it out, using the limits of the technology they had and just finding creative ways to solve problems. The main one, I guess, locomotion, right? How do we solve locomotion? I think that's what Lone Echo did really well.
I'm pretty sure locomotion was a big conversation back then, especially like people would go like, oh, maybe you have to walk by moving your hands. Maybe we need to get special shoes for it. And that came up to like the, what was that product? The one where you sit down and you like roll your shoes around.
Yeah.
And then,
did you ever use one of those, by the way? One of those walkers?
No, sadly not.
They're awful. Well, when I used it, 5 years ago, it was terrible.
Well, yeah, I kind of guessed though. I'm pretty sure it's just shoes with wheels on them.
Yeah. Okay, so where I was going to make a point, but it's gone. I can't remember what it was. Beatsaber was that as big as a thing as I'm reading into it? I'm assuming that Beatsaber, you found it and then you just like sunk hundreds of hours into it and dived into that world. Yeah, pretty much.
Completely dived in straight, head straight. Is that the saying? But let's see how many hours. I think it's that obviously people will go like, oh, those aren't enough hours. But like, this is because I don't play as much nowadays, and I switched a few times. Around 1,000 hours put into that. And majority of those 1,000 hours was within that 1 year. And constantly playing it, coming back home from school, because back then I was back in high school, and then just constantly come back from school. And I remember, funny thing is, back in the Beatsaber days, I had a mate of mine who also had VR, but I didn't even know he had VR. And he had a song, and he said, I did a good score on this song. I was kind of like, I'll beat you on that. I'll beat you on that. And then because of that, I kind of went like, oh, wait, no, he's actually pretty good. So he was actually part of the community as well. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. He was more like a friend of a friend. And it kind of went into that.
Oh, that's nice. Small world.
Yeah. So just being from the start of Beatsaber, and then I was evolving with it because like you first started off with, I don't know, starting off with everyone learning how to play $100 bills for the first time, and then like you're starting to get better and better, and then the custom maps came out, and then you would try out all the custom maps, and then people would rave over reality check through the skull, or what was that other one? I can't remember it, but people were raving about it back then. Now you look at it and you go like, oh, that's a map, I guess. But yeah, going through it's what cemented a good part of VR. And because, Beat Saber is a huge thing now. Let's see if Boz sees that after a few more years.
What's the competitive scene like with Beat Saber? Is there how does it work? Are there competitions? Do people go in parallel? Is it just ready, steady, start at the same time?
So competitions in Beat Saber were really fun because you would actually go from at first it was just people enjoying the games just playing around with the songs, and then people get into the scoring system and go like, oh, I guess if I hold it in this direction, I can actually get these amount of points. And then it'll transition into Score Saber, where they'll have an actual ranked ladder for people to get performance points and whatnot. Each song they play, they can kind of see, like, oh, I got an S on this score, so I get like 300 points, and then how many songs you play, you climb up the ladder, and I remember that being a big thing. I think it's still quite a big thing now, because Score Saber just kept evolving, and I'm pretty sure the creator of Score Saber, he is Umbrox, I think that's his name. Anyway, he started off making mods, and then he actually got hired by Beat Games.
Nice.
And then he was also Australian. He was part of the community too. And then he left it, but I think he still manages Score Saber. Anyway, back to the competitive side, people would start doing different tournaments here and there. And then it came into like Cube community, which is just the majority of what Beatsaber content goes into. And then people go like, oh, I remember that one video from Cube community. And then they would do tournaments where they would like, okay, we have this day, we're going to set up different times. You're going to verse against this person, or this team's going to verse around this team. And then you're going to all play the same song, 4 players. If you get which team gets the most points after playing the thing wins. And it went from that into Beatsaber World Cup. And I was sub for Beatsaber World Cup when it first came out.
Beatsaber World Cup. Okay.
Yeah, basically cool. It was online tournament. This is during the COVID days, I think.
Yeah.
And basically on Twitch, they'll just get everyone's stream onto it, and then they'll sync it all up, because you had a mod to actually sync it up. So everyone will be playing at the exact same time. And then because Beatsaber has different genres and different actual like playing styles, for example, there's tech maps, and then there's stream, what do you call it? Are they streams? Stream maps. And then there's like, there's a lot of different ways that a map can be played. And some people have more skill in one area versus another person in another. So one person could be very good at jumps, which just basically means like from left side to up, right side, just constantly, and people are really good at that. They're good at getting the scores. So then you go like, okay, we have 4 people. We're going to go like, we're going to get you to play this song. This next song is going to be mostly jumps. Right. So can you do it here, here, and here? And you try your best to actually maximize your score to win it. And I'm pretty sure at the end, I think it was the USA team that won. It was USA versus UK. And I can't remember what Australia came.
Is it much of a viewing experience? Is it much of a stream when these events happen?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. You would have a judging panel, which would be commentating over the actual video. And then like all of a sudden, they'll have graphics on the screen to actually show the like how each player was doing. I think they used to have highlights too. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, there would always be interactive somewhat because of that. I don't know, it's a bit different because it's like 8 different streams at once, all playing the same song. But like overall, you're looking at the numbers, you go like, oh, who's going to win? And then you'll see one person, they're like really, really good at this one part. And then the judges will go like, oh, look at cooling closet over there or something like that.
Because I've seen some, I mean, I'm not in that community, so I don't know how you guys are doing it, like with competitions at World Cup and things like this. But I've seen marketing material and imagery where they like superimpose the real life like view of the person with the headset on, and then they'll put the Beatsaber in the background so it actually looks like they're in the game like that. Is that setup used at all when streaming competitive players?
Not really for competitive players. Really. That was more for, I think it was called Live. That's the software they use to actually
that rings
generate that.
Yeah.
So Live and all that content was more for dancing content, which is honestly pretty. It's still very what do you call it? What's the word? I've hit a blank. It was still very fun to watch, and but it's kind of hard to put that into a competitive sense because normally when you see people dancing, they don't have that many cubes. They have like 1, 2, 3, 4. But then when you have like a Beatsaber map that is 200 BPM, there's only so much you can like dance to when it's just like. And when you put that into physical sense, what you're seeing is just someone standing still, but then their hands are going like really fast. So I don't think it will be the best to put that into competitive sense. Maybe so, because I remember there was this person, he got a few advertisements in from Beat Games. He was
Zero.
a
Just
pretty
come forward a
competitive
little
player.
bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. You're good. Yeah, you're good.
So he was a pretty competitive player, but he would like do spins in between like really hard songs, and I think that was a big gimmick of his, which is really fun to watch when you saw it in third person. But not every competitive player is like that.
How big is the Beatsaber competitive scene that compared to what you're seeing over with VRML, with games like Onward and Echo Arena?
I think VRML
does
is
it just
much more geared towards that because it is a rhythm game. Majority of people hop into Beat Saber to have fun, to enjoy themselves. Competitive aspect is just seeing the top, like the skim top of the like best of the best going at each other. And when you have a game like this, sure, you can have it to chill out and enjoy, but the majority of it, it's an actual game with points and different strategies because it's a map to actually work on versus the other one, which is more for the rhythm game.
I guess so. I partially disagree because I feel like Echo, I feel that we are a little bit biased because we live in the, I mean, look, Season 5 champion. We live in the competitive scene. So we are like, our view is skewed towards competitive. Like, it's 1 in 10 players that are actually competitive. Everyone else is just playing it casually. They're just going into pubs.
Really?
Well, look at the actual stats of like the player base for Echo Arena. The actual, like the amount that are actually in privates at any given day is like a fraction compared to everyone in the social
It
lobby.
definitely makes sense because there's a certain amount of like numbers for VRML. But the thing is, when you have pub players, they can learn about VRML and then hop straight into the competitive scene, right? When you compare that to Beat Saber, you have new players. They have to get really good before they can get into any competitive scene. So this is more geared towards, you're already at the top, play. Here, it's more like, you're not at the top, give your shot. So I think that's the difference between these two competitive scenes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Okay,
fair.
I know, it's sad. You're doing a sad emojis.
They can't even see. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that. I could talk about that for ages. I always felt like I care less because the game's shutting down, but before it was shutting down, I was quite concerned with the fact that the lack of retention. So players come into the game, they come into pubs, they have a terrible time because pubs are horrible, because all the good players are now playing privates. So if a new player comes in, knows nothing about VRML or privates, they go in, they play pubs, and they're like, this game sucks. I'll never play this again. And there's a chasm that was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, where new players
honestly,
they can't get past it.
Because I remember when I first got into Echovr, like you would see Lemming playing a pub patch, and you would go like, "Oh my god, he's so cool, he's so good at it," and then you would go like, "Whoa, all these pro players are playing the game. I can at least learn with them or play with them."
Yeah.
But nowadays, they're getting off the scrims and games.
They're all in scrims. They're all in privates. So the chasm just gets bigger, and it becomes closed, not by design, but it just becomes like a closed door thing, where the new players just don't go in unless you know someone who can like get you into those privates and get you trained up.
Yeah.
But anyway, We're talking about your story, getting into VR. That's why we're talking about Beatsaber. You're talking about that community, which I find is really interesting because I just don't know much about it. I'm in that Cube community, and it looks huge. There's chat going off all the time. It looks very active, but I'm not too involved with it. But it sounds like you found Echo after already being in around Beatsaber, or was it kind of like both at the same time? COVID times, loads of time on your hands.
Somewhat around the same time. I would play Echo for this amount of time and go like, all right, guys, I'm hopping off, and then I'll go into Beat Saber. I remember playing, I think it was in year 10 or year 11, probably year 10. That's when I would kind of interchange between them, and I'd just play for fun. The thing is, there was a point in time in Echo where I took a big break. I think it was like a 6 months to 8 months break, just not playing it, and then I would hop back on, and that's when the Quest came. Not the Quest, the beta for Quest came out.
When the beta for Quest came out, which was 2018? No, it was 2000. It was COVID times.
It was around that time.
That's 3 years ago. How nuts is that?
That's old as fuck.
You're 21, man. You're gonna have that many more times to come. You're gonna be like,
I know.
damn, I feel old. Damn, I feel old.
Can't wait until next year. I missed my 21.
Well, you're that generation that's had it weird, right? Because those key years where you're 18, 19, 20 have, like, you spent that in lockdown. You've spent that, yeah. And Australia, your lockdown time was different to the UK at least, because I think you guys were fine, right? Didn't you, like, you shut the borders down, no one goes in or out, we're quarantined, we're all good, and then it hit you later. Is that right? Or have I got that wrong?
So it was very prolonged for us. Right. So from what I remember back then, I know it's a bit of a blur, but they said, okay, COVID's happening. They go, oh, okay, cool. I'll still go to like university and whatnot, because this is when I first got into university, I think.
Yeah.
But I'll go. And then all of a sudden, okay, no one come in. Stay home. Okay, staying home. And then they're going, okay, you're good to go. Wait, no, you're not. And it'll just keep flip-flopping. We go, what are we doing? Are we allowed? Are we staying? But I do feel for a lot of people around our age, because I turned 18 during COVID. And many other people turned 18 during COVID. And for Australia...
Oh, no. We've lost him. That's got to be a power off, because that was instant. That was not a tracking thing. Yeah, we're going to pause this and come back to it. He might be back. Is he back?
I'm back. Sorry about that. My USB hub tends to do that every now and then.
Oh, okay.
It'll just
I
shut
you
off
might be
all
Quest
the
and like
peripherals.
battery drops. No, just cable. All right.
Yeah. I'm still on my CB1.
Nice. We were talking about COVID things, lockdowns, in and out of lockdowns.
Yeah.
Loads of people of your generation that are 18 when you're locked down, and you're making.
Oh yeah, because when you're 18 in Australia, that's when you're like first allowed to drink, and then you're first allowed to go to bars and all that. And like when you're 18, you go like, ooh, we can finally do all this stuff. And then like COVID hits, and you're just like, oh, I'll be 18. I guess I'll just sit on my bed.
I mean, it's not that bad, but it just really sucks.
It's not like the most horrible thing in the world. Like many, like I'm sure it was worse, 10 times worse for people turning 18 back in like 1930s, 1940s when World War II was going on. They're turning 18 like, woo, I'm drafted. But it was still a bit sucky for a lot of people, because COVID was sucky for everyone. You're very disconnected, and that's where VR came in to actually help a lot of that. But still a disconnected time.
Were you pretty much online though at the age of 16, 17? Oh, you said something about year 10, year 11. I think you took 6 months off of the game and then came back.
Yeah. I took a bit of a break from Echo to actually. I honestly don't
Exams,
even
I
know the
imagine.
reason why.
It's got to be exams, right? At that
It
age.
might be exams, honestly, yeah. But I took a break and then I just came on a while after that. But honestly, the majority of that was a blur for me because I'm not 100% sure what I was doing back then besides just exams. I don't know if I was like playing Beatsaber on the side or even online all that much.
But
But
then you came back to it. You came
I
back to the
came
world of
right
VR.
back. Yep.
Do
Hello.
you? Okay, where did we go? We went back to you getting into VR. We went on a tangent with Beatsaber, talking about competitive scene and Beatsaber, some other things. So Echo, let's talk about Echo. So what was your experience playing it for the first time, and then how did you get from that to being a champion, season 2 champion?
It started off with, wow, this is really trippy. And then it's go like, oh, I think I'm kind of getting the hang of this. And then it go like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then it go like, yo, what's up? How's it going? And then it will be just countless hours just playing pubs over and over.
Yeah.
Albeit, there's 180 to 300 ping.
Yes.
Back those times, it was kind of just the standard to, sorry, man, I'm kind of lagging. Fuck you! Oh god! Like, I love UK, but I was abused. When you have that 300 playing plus player hopping into your game and you're just trying to have fun, and then like, man, I'm not having fun either. I'm dying. The disc is over there. Why there?
I feel like a dick now. It's the first thing I said when I came in. I was like, oh look, 300 ping. Jesus.
Nah, it's all good.
Yeah, 300 ping. That's nuts. That is nuts. But like, you just didn't have private servers.
No.
Back when you were actually playing, so you could not practice with low ping.
Well,
I mean, sorry.
Brad's
you
idea
didn't
about it
have
was just
OCE servers or private servers.
yeah. We didn't have any servers whatsoever because there was only the US servers, UK servers, and back then when you only have 12 players, why would Rad care about putting any servers anywhere else? Like, I think at one given time, if you were to take a slice of back then, there would probably only be 4 concurrent OC players at that time. So because of that, like, you can't even play a full game. And especially back then when it was 4v4. It was a 4v4, right? Yeah, it was 4v4. Wait, no, it was a 3v3. What am I going on about? So that's even worse. So it was like 3 players, and then there was 1 player on the other side. You go like, oh, okay. The Brad didn't care. And I remember back then, I sent a DM to David, Rad David.
Yep.
And I said, the ping's horrible, man. What do I do? I probably sounded a bit like a whiny to him. But he said, yeah, I don't know, man, try a VPN. I tried a VPN. It sucks. It's worse. Sucks to be you. But, you know, it was somewhat tolerable. I could, like, still play. It was just every now and then the backtrack going on, and then you go like, man, I'm just trying to have fun. I'm trying to have fun in my 0G disc game.
Why did you keep playing? If you've got an average of 300 ping, you're
180
you don't have
to 300.
Okay. Okay. So it's not that
It's
bad,
not
but still.
horrible all the time, but you know, it was manageable for the majority of the time. But also the community there, I would always hop in, say hi to people that I knew, and then just enjoy, just play the game, because as much as it is like competitive, as much as it is a game, it's also a social space, because well, a lot of people have met each other here and just made a lot of friends online through this, because you have expressions. I'm moving my hands around, stuff like that.
Yes.
There was a few interviews. I think I was talking to Pamwell a long time ago. I think it was 2021 or 2020. He was going on about like, it's a lot better to talk to someone because you have the expression. You have your hands to go like, oh, this or that, right, left, that whole thing. So when you put that into like a situation where like, oh, hey, I'm from Australia, like, oh my God, that's so far away. How are you doing? And then like, you just saw me move my hands so many times just saying that right now. All of that culminated into like much more of a closeness with people versus just like voice chat.
Have you done much? I was going to ask. So with Beatsaber, if Beatsaber had some kind of social, like meeting lobby, social lobby, would you have needed Echo?
Yes.
You'd still be playing Echo. What does Echo have?
I would still be playing Echo. Well, it's a completely different game from Beat Saber. Beat Saber's still a rhythm game, even though it had its social. If it had a social aspect to it, Echo is still a completely different thing where your movement is so unique, it will still hook you in. So no matter what it is, no matter if a game has this social aspect or this social aspect, Echo is so much more unique in that aspect. Because, well, you think about other games, you use your thumbsticks to move around. How many times can you have like someone you never know just go like, yo, what's up? Like that. And then it'll just be a completely different spectacle per chance.
Do you play VR chat? Or you said you used to play Altspace a bit. Do you play any other social apps like that?
I used to play VR chat. Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm summarizing why do you play Echo and the uniqueness of the locomotion, the social side, the community that you're heavily invested in, and competitive. That combination, that hits the sweet spot, and that's kept you here 7 seasons later, or 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool. We've covered quite a lot of ground, to be fair. We've done all the Beatsaber stuff. We spoke about OCE a little bit. We can keep talking about that because I had actually. Let me check my notes. I did have some questions on the OCE stuff because I mean, like I know you're technically not the founder, but when I was asking people who should I interview in OCE, a lot of people pointed towards you as the guy, as the man, as the top dog.
That's me. Okay, top dog's a bit much. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy that liked VR a lot.
Well, you have to be humble, but I mean, captain of the team that's just winning it back to back. Are you like, where's your competitive nature come from? Were you like that when you were younger? Were you playing sports in school, playing football, whatever?
I don't know. With Echo, my competitive nature came from. I don't know. For Echo, it was a bit different because when I came in, I first wanted to mentor people to get them up to the same speed. And because I already knew how to play the game.
To grow the ladder, right?
Yeah. So my competitive scene never really came from outside of that. Like, sure, I'd play sports as a kid, but I wasn't as competitive. Like, you wouldn't see me in, like, state versus state in Australia for soccer or footy or anything. But, like, because of that wanting to grow other people in OCE, and then I don't know, that kind of just kept my competitive growth because it's more than just me getting better.
Yeah.
It's my goal back then for everyone to get better. Because when I would hear something like the OC region is trash, I wouldn't like it felt more of a personal attack on me. Obviously, it's not an actual personal attack on me. It's not directed at me or anything like that, but like the OC region is being grown. So many different Kopesh, Cam Jam, all of them were putting so much effort into making sure the region grows. And when you're starting at 0, it's kind of hard. So when you hear the OC region is trash, everyone who is putting in every single cent, even the new players that are trying their hardest to get through it, it's kind of just like, well, you know, we didn't have that extra 2 years of experience. We're trying to actually push that forward. So the competitive scene was, not the competitive scene, but my competitiveness came from both aspect of wanting to get better at the game myself, but also wanting the OC to grow.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds, it's like deja vu. All the EU people I've spoken to, this was EU, but just like a year before.
I remember.
Same story, growing. Were you, so who, were you like close speaking to, and you mentioned Nada, that you know, you at least know of them. Is there anyone else in
I
EU
know
that
of
you've
them.
like been in contact with while growing your community?
There wasn't
Or not
a
so
bunch
much?
of EU players, not as much, sadly. There were a few people that I do remember and speaking fondly of and like talking to, but then again, it was pretty hard for even OC players to meet up with EU players because even though the time difference isn't as bad as other regions, the times that OC players get on to play pubs is after school or after work or after uni and after all that. That's at 5 p.m. and onwards, which is your guys' time to start simmering down and go to bed. But that's when NA would hop on.
Yeah.
So unless you didn't have work or school that day where you can play at like any time of the day, you had certain time slots for majority of people here, and because that connection wasn't as prominent as the other regions, it was kind of hard for OC players to always meet up or like have. You can see someone like 50 times and see someone 5 times. Obviously, you're going to know the person you've seen 50 times more than the person you've seen
Yeah.
5 times.
I always found it fun, like, because in once in a blue moon on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, I'd go on like 10 a.m. my time, and then for you, I think that's, well, what time is it now? Right now for me, it's going on midday. So what's that, 9 p.m. for you?
It's 9. Yep.
Yeah, 9. So for you, like 8 p.m. So sometimes I'll come on early. If I'm coming on like the 10 a.m. in the morning, I'll start hearing some Japanese accents and Australian accents. I'm like, oh, this is different. And then, yeah, the ping would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It's just good, the international nature of the game, and knowing that, yeah, it does reach that far. It's not just 2 regions. It's not just the UK and North America. It's also
When I
all
was
these places in
doing
Europe as well.
when I was doing that interview, you were also part of the interview.
Yes.
The
Yes,
tribute to Echo.
yes.
When I told them about like Japan, they were like, "Whoa!" I didn't really like pay that much attention to the Japanese side when I told them the numbers on the Japanese side, because the Japanese side is a lot bigger than what people would think.
Right.
They're just very interconnected and mingle around their own region because, well, language barrier. It's just, unless you see them firsthand, it's hard to see the scale of it. Because even though everyone's interconnected, like, I'm sure if there was like a huge influx of Spanish players, or say something like Korean players, they would, as soon as you say the numbers of the people in that region, and there's a huge influx, you'll go like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Well, yes, because it's hard to actually see the scale of how many people are there. Even though interconnected, you can go like, oh, I know this guy, but do you know this group? And this group of a group, and then group of a group of a group, and it's just like major, like, huge.
You mentioned Korea. Are they Korean players? I guess they're
There
quite
used
far
to be
from
a
the
few Korean
servers.
players, yeah. They would play on the Japanese servers most times
Right.
because they're the closest ones. There were a few VRML players. I think maybe 2 or 3 that were from thing, but I don't know. It wasn't as prominent as the Japanese side. I have no idea for that.
It stuck out because Korea has a reputation for esports, right? Or at least pancake esports.
Yeah,
So that would be epic if Echo had some influence over there, or VR
I would
sports in
love it,
general.
honestly. Yeah.
It's quite a good thing. Okay, cool. What was I going to say? I was going to mention, it's not that relevant anymore, but I was going to mention that there are in Europe, so most of the player base, at least what I'm aware of, is UK. There's a large UK community, but then there's a French community as well, Italian community,
Know
which is
about them? Yep.
surprisingly big. They're hosting the last LAN that I'm aware of that's coming up in July.
Hmm.
It's pretty cool, right? Who would have
I
thought?
remember back when I first started playing,
Yeah.
there was a big Russian community. There was
Right.
a few players from then. Yeah, I remember. I'm part Russian, so it
Right.
was just the pain that I could also know what they were saying. And 300 ping again.
Hilarious. What's their nearest server? Is it literally just like Germany?
They would play
Or
in the
is it
Europe servers, yeah.
okay. There must be a
Majority of the
server,
time.
like another one that's further out, like West Europe. No, sorry,
Really?
Eastern Europe.
I think they used to have like 100 ping back then, which is
Yeah.
a pretty big, but like, not huge.
That's nuts. I did not know there was a Russian player base.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, cool. Let's move on. That was awesome. Next question. Shutdown. We've mentioned it a good few times, a good handful of times now. The game's shutting down. What was your initial reaction when you heard that news? Did you see it coming, and how are you dealing with it now, a few months in?
I heard about it before majority of the players because I am a VML mod. I don't do a whole lot now, sadly, but when I heard about it, I was just like, what the fuck? Is this fake news? Is Princess lying? Is this like an early April Fool's joke? And then no, it was actually happening. So when the announcement came up, I was trying to contact as many Echo friends as I knew and go like, do you see what's going on? And it's like, yeah, what the fuck? And everyone in the community was confused for the first week. No one had any idea why. They're just saying, okay, we're shutting down. And the funny thing, you look at the season pass they were giving out, the update beforehand, they go like, does this mean Echo shutting down? Absolutely not. Psych! It's just like, cool. Yeah. You guys suck. And the OCE, because of the shutdown, a lot of people left. A lot of people just going like, this is shit. Because I can say that. Oh, I have to replace battery later. But anyway, I can say that like Punda left completely. He came back now. God bless his soul. And then he left because, well, the whole reason of our competitive nature, like we were org hunting. We were all hunting everywhere in OCE to get like a good organization so that we can get VR esports out there. Like we had a little Leviathan resume that I still have the PDF on that has like all the accomplishments of Echovr, the monetary, the actual view accounts and whatnot. And then we're trying to convince all these orgs, and then like also Ace them. He like saw us and go like, you know what? I'm gonna give this a go. This seems like it could be a great thing, and then Meta just shuts us down. Like there was so much potential, and they just wasted it over the years. Because think about it, when was the last actual update that was meaningful? Like there's shop updates, there's cosmetics, that's cool and all that, but like it's a game with no game updates.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The shutdown was such a letdown, and the reason for the shutdown is even more for letdown because they're saying numbers game without properly understanding the numbers. Like, oh, Boz is the CTO now. He sees 50,000 players and go like, that's nothing. But then you go onto Steam and see other games with around the same numbers and they're still thriving communities because this community is still thriving with hardly any updates from Ready at Dawn. We were thriving so much. We were having LAN events. We were putting in so much money and effort. NEPA put... I think I remember someone mentioning that they put well over 250 to 500K Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. It was just a passing saying, but
This was an
they've
organization,
put so much.
I'm assuming, or was this an individual?
Nepal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did think that was it. I just didn't know if you were going to say or not.
Sorry, I thought
That's
it was
right.
my bad. But yeah, they put so much effort into it, and then like it didn't make sense at the time, and now it only makes sense because of Meta's whole direction. The whole direction is now the year of efficiency, which is just cutting off everything that they think they don't need. But you're destroying you're destroying Echo, you're destroying Onward, which is VR esports, which has such a huge potential growth.
Yeah.
And they're just killing it because, well, it's not AGI. It's not hundreds of thousands, as Boz said. Just sad to see, but I don't know what can be done about it. They said Echovr, the developers are going to make a new project. I think majority of that's bullshit because they're from what I heard, I'm pretty sure the RAD offices are completely barren. They've been barren for months now. There's no one there. It's just, I don't know. It's very unfortunate for us.
It's true. And I think something that adds to that is that you've, like me, because I can 100% relate to it, your first experience was with GearVR, then you've got a CV1, you've played all those early games, and all of those early games had a similarity in that they were essentially, even if they were paid games, they were basically demos. It was saying, look at this platform. This is what Oculus was. Oculus was like, look, this is possible. We can have these kinds of experiences. It's ready. It's not 1995 anymore. It's now, whenever it was, 2016. It's like the technology's here. We're now coming up to a decade later, and we're like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Come on, this is going to be huge.
Let's get
keep
the
going.
ball, keep moving.
So us individually, and I imagine some people watching this now, were that wave of enthusiasts at PCVR, and we're like, yeah, Oculus, amazing, let's go. And then to have something with so much genuine potential be cut off, it's a real like, like popping of the balloon.
It's just, that's what's, I'm scared because majority of, from what I'm hearing and different like news outlets and whatnot, I'm just hearing that Meta's just gearing towards AGI now. AGI is, don't get me wrong, I'm a software engineer. I love looking at different like technologies being born and bred, and AGI is a great thing to learn about, but then it's like, there was VR, and VR was such a novel and great idea, but I'm scared that you're going to completely get rid of it, the same as you get rid of your employees. And, well, it gets me a little bit scared for the potential, the future of VR. Because, well, Meta's such a big player, and if they don't put that much effort, well, where's the actual market value going to be?
So you mentioned Meta a lot as the ones making these decisions, and it's absolutely true. They run a monopoly when it does come to VR, like 100%. The Quest 2 is the headset. Like it takes absolute majority of the market. But what do you think about other companies? I mean, still kind of recently, big screen coming out of a headset. What? A software app deciding to get into hardware? Like, what are your thoughts on the rest of the industry beyond?
I think the rest of the industry, majority of them are huge enthusiasts. Big screen, the people on big screen properly understand VR. They've been there since the beginning, and the issue is that when it comes to products in the world we live, majority of it has to come from money. And the big spenders was mostly Meta, so that's why majority of their things get copied over. And while I love how the rest of the industry is doing, I love how like you have Steam, which is majority about cataloging games, and they're not really a game company; they're more of a software company. But they're still like they're still finding out patents, and I'm pretty sure the decade's going to come out soon enough. They're still putting in effort, but like, you have percentages, right? How much percent of Steam going to put into Steam VR? And no matter if it's like 20 million or 200 million, it would be great if it's 200 million, but it's hard to put so much money. Like, think of it from the company's perspective, right? The company is going to put $200 million into this market that just lost so much value from another big company because they just shorted all their resources towards that. Well, as a company view, you go like, well, that's way too much risk, and I don't know if that's going to be great profit. I don't know if we should do that. So it's up to the small players to actually get it done. But again, like I said, it's majority about money. You can have a headset made by a small company that is way out of its world, but it costs them like $2 million to make because it has all the features. They can't really make that money back by selling to people $4,000 headsets with the actual percentage of people out there that are interested in VR and interested enough to put $4,000 into that. So from the company's perspective, I'm scared about that because big players walking out of industries are always a bad sign for the industry. Because unless that void gets filled, it's just going to keep eating up and eating up and eating up until it hits a point where it's back to a stable ground. But sadly, the stable ground for VR is back to an enthusiast level.
Do you feel we're coming into by the way, just come to your left? Yeah, that's perfect. There, you can move out and stuff. It's just sometimes you're backing out and it's a little bit out of frame.
Yeah. Sorry.
But you're good. No, you're good. You're good. What was I going to ask? Do you feel we're going into this sounds more extreme than it actually is, but do you feel like we're going into a VR dark age now? Do you think there's going to be 5-10 years where not crazy steps forward happen like we've seen in the past 10 years, but then on the other side of this, we'll then get those big jumps again?
This is weird. I'm not 100% sure about this, but it could be exponential growth, but down and then straight up. Because if AGI is coming into plan, well, AGI is obviously going to get many different sectors of the marketplace way higher because it cuts down a lot of production costs. So if all that energy is put into that and then that energy is redirected back into VR, that's when the huge spike will happen, because that's going to give let's say right now there's potential for a dark age of VR, but if it happens, surely either Meta or someone else would have to go back into it and just go like, well, let's start this back up. We made so much money last time we tried it. Now that we have our new ways of doing it, we can make 20 times the profit. And, they're profit driven. So as soon as they see the bucks on that, the AGI is on its way. And then it will be huge growth. But I'm not 100% sure if they're going to go back up to here, because what if they completely forget about it? And then it's, again, has to stable out. It's not going to have its growth.
Do you think that's possible? Do you think that's likely? It will just get dropped and then no big player comes in anytime soon?
There's always a possibility. I hope it's not going to happen because there are great applications. And like I said a while ago, I think I was saying this for VR esports, but it translates back to this. There is a huge ceiling, and we haven't even grasped the bottom half of it. There's a huge ceiling, and I'm hoping that after a while it starts to actually pick up ground again. But also on top of that, less hardware, more software for VR. I do believe that is a huge thing.
That does make sense, because the Quest 2 was like, 2 years before its time, right? Do you remember when that came up and the hype around it? Because it was such a step up from a headset that only came out like a year before.
Yeah.
The Quest 2 was nuts. It was just ahead of its time in terms of hardware, and then the software side is still playing that catch up.
I don't know. I think ratios have to be considered.
Aligned.
They have to be. Right now, tell me when Echo shuts down, what's the one thing you're going to go into with your Quest or any VR?
Bro, like nothing. Literally nothing.
What other software is there for people who are left behind because one thing is gone?
Wait, but I saw a poster the other day. Population 1? I think I want to be playing that.
Oh, Pop 1. I heard about that. Yeah. Yeah. Fuckers. Fucking hell. Jesus. They just fucking unzipped their pants and slapped us right over the face with that. It's just, jeez.
All right, a bit of positivity. So you're, you finished university, right? Are you finished your studies, or are you still studying?
Oh, I'm still studying.
What are you studying?
Software engineering.
Do you have any plan to go into games at all?
No, not really. Well, I could. It depends whatever I'm actually like. I don't have a set path. I just know software engineering and actually creating software and all that is what I want to do. Whatever that like pushes me to, whatever branch it pushes me to it, and I'm just going to learn off when I'm in the industry. I do 100% want to work on brand new novel ideas, whether it be into VR, whether it be into AI, whether it be into just cloud computing. I want to go in that direction. Obviously, first I have to finish university.
So you're still finishing university, are you?
Yeah, I have basically a year and a half left before actually finishing. Just because COVID kind of my degree
Is
a
there
little
like
bit.
a dissertation or like main project that you're working on at the moment as part of your studies?
At the moment, no, not really. I'm still finishing off a few of my units. My thesis is going to come up basically next year into the other year after. And that's when I'm going to start figuring out what project to work on.
Okay, so you're very much like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. Let me try some stuff.
Yeah, I'm an experimentalist.
Yeah, that's the best place to be when you just don't know. It's the most exciting part. A lot of people get scared about that. They need some like structure and they need to be told what to do. But other people thrive in that, like having no clear direction and then just figuring it out. Try loads of different stuff. What works, what doesn't work. Well, it sounds like it's on the cards for you to, get involved with the VR industry as it grows over the next 10 years. You're clearly invested enough to be a champion. Third time I'm going to mention it. I'll mention it. But yeah, you're the kind of person who's got the tools, got the experience with your degree, what you're studying at the moment, and then has the involvement with the community and skin in the game to actually give a crap and contribute to building what we all hoped would be here and is being discontinued on the 1st of August. So we'll leave it at that. No, I'm joking. There's more questions. Have you got time, by the way? Have you got another, at least 10 minutes?
I've got definitely 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right, cool. Yeah, I'll go for
it's all good.
So the next one is, what are you curious about? And you can back up. It doesn't have to be anything to do with technology or VR. It's just you at 21 years old doing your studies.
I don't know if that's just me, but that's like a deep question. That's like, what are you curious about in life?
Top of mind. Top of mind. What was on your mind this weekend?
Honestly, my mind right now is on Bard AI. The LLMs, language models are like really cool. But
Okay, you're gonna have to break
it's
these
just
down, layman terms. Bot AI.
GTP.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So chatbots, AI
Yeah,
tools.
chatbots and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm more lurking in that. It's
Yeah.
very curious for me. I'm just like, ooh, how is this being done? And now that Bard Bard is Google's AI, Google's ChatGPT. Now it's
Okay.
finally allowed in Australia. And the thing about Bard is that unlike ChatGPT, which for a very long time was only set up to a cut-up point of November 2021 or something like that, Bard is actually still it's connected to the internet, so it can actually search up stuff for you. It can actually skim through different documents and whatnot, versus ChatGPT, which only now, I think it was announced 12 hours ago, it was announced that ChatGPT is now allowing the premium users to use plugins. So that means ChatGPT is now going to be able to read web pages, which is pretty big because, well, normally you just have to like, okay, what do you think about this? And then copy and paste the article. Now you can say, can you search up 15 different articles about this topic and then summarize them into a thing? And there you go. You have your entire news feed summarized for you just by ChatGPT. And that's the whole point of ChatGPT and other language models like that. It's to just summarize and just do the grit work that you don't have to do because, well, you have loading times, you have your own just like moving mouse to this, clicking and dragging. This way, it's just doing it all at once for you. It's something I'm very curious about.
Curious in terms of like what it turns into, or curious about applying it like now, like figuring out ways to use it?
Both. I want to see what happens in the future. I want to see if it transforms into AGI. I want to see if we're going to be able to utilize it day to day. But I also want to know how can I use it now to actually like work on it.
By the way, you keep saying AGI. What does AGI stand for? Are you saying that in...
Artificial General Intelligence, which basically means AI that is, to put it into layman terms, as smart as a human. It can do stuff for you. It's like having ChatGPT with arms and legs. It can do stuff for you. You
Okay.
can tell it, I want you to make the simplest stuff, like I want you to make my shopping list for me. Got that for you. We are going to look at this website, scroll down, got this, grab, put, see the price of that, compare the price to this supermarket. It's going to go through all of that pretty quickly and then do it for you straight in. Then there's more better uses for it. If you want to say, with VR and actual graphics in general and that type of space of programming, AGI is going to help that tenfold because, well, what's that thing that a lot of people are going on about? Foveated rendering? Well, what is foveated rendering? It's just when you're looking at something, what is the thing? But then you have stuff like NVIDIA's...
the eye gaze.
Everything's like everything. I guess?
NVIDIA. You're not talking about that streaming package where, like, if I look over here, my eyes will look at the camera.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Or are you talking about something
That's
else?
more algorithm, but I'm thinking more about DLSS. DLSS, where it basically you have your game, right? Very high maintenance, high performance. But then what they're going to do, they're going to downscale it down to like 360p and then upscale it again using AI to actually figure out, okay, do you kind of understand how like graphics works in general? Because like when you're facing like that and then you move like that, it has to render everything that's going in, like basically every time you move your head or look at something different. Well, AGI is going to be able to do that much faster when it's predisposed to just doing that in general.
Right. Got it. In
That's
layman
what it
terms,
is.
it's just going to make everything better, and like even things like rendering. You're saying it's just going to
Or
improve
kill
that.
all humans, because it's that smart as a human. So it's either going to be Terminator or it's going to be easy
Is there an
shopping lists. Alternative?
Like Terminator or
I don't know which movie is. What movie is good AI?
there is
I
one.
think of everything. We go like I don't know, maybe Star Wars. You get to see C-3PO on your side and go like, "Hello,
Yeah,
sir,"
true.
or something like that.
Okay, I've got another question just to tie this off. Chip or no chip? And you've never seen the interview, so you don't know what that means. So you know how Elon Musk has the neuro chip? I
Yes.
can't remember what the proper term is for it. Would you put that in your brain?
Yes, but I'll be afraid for the rest of my life.
Oh, so you do it?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm just scared shitless of it.
Yeah, man,
I'm telling you, man, I'm an experimentalist. I'll just do it. I'll do it for shits and gigs.
That's the best answer I've had. All right, cool. Is there anything else you want to say? I mean, I'm going to be posting this in the OCE server. I'm going to put it in NA and EU as well, so some people see it. Anything you want to promote, anything like that? Or we can just sign us off?
I'm not going to promote anything, but I love you, OC. I'm sorry. That's all.
Love it. Positivity. No,
Yeah.
no, it sucks. It's a weird time, but yeah, there's things to come.
But I'm sure, like, even though people are saying that, like, oh, VR, I'm not going to use VR after Echo's gone, and they'll come back. I'm sure a good majority of them will come back for other stuff, because it is a medium. It's not a game. So when later on in life stuff gets better, people will come back and they'll go like, this reminds me of Echo. I'm going to come back and experience it again. So hopefully. I am still hopeful, as negative as I might have seemed throughout the interview. I am still hopeful. I'm just scared. I'm a scared little boy on this VR landscape after Meta just axed down Echo. But I'm sure VR is still going to be good.
Nice. Thank you for a summary of the whole interview.
There you go.
Nice one. Thank you, TheRealZero. Let's sign us off. And yeah, I'll see you in the arena.